Brilliant. So we're now recording the session and it's really exciting to welcome you. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about campaigning with confidence and how to master paid social advertising. So for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Dan Jenkins. I'm a commercial director here at WAGADA Digital. We're proud to successfully deliver online visibility for ambitious clients. I've been with the company now for around 6 years. Have evolved from being a sort of a digital marketer specializing across SEO, social media, paid and organic, and Google Ads, and then graduating through to client services, head of client services, in fact, and I'm a commercial director at our agency based out of our Cheltenham office, but obviously we have offices across the UK. And as I say, it's not all about me. So we launched our office in St Albans, which is our flagship and original office, well over a decade ago now. And then we've evolved to have 3 locations. So we have our office in St Albans. We have this one here where I'm zooming you from in Cheltenham. And then we also have our London office as well. So we now have a team of almost 30 experts spread across the 3 locations in the UK. We are a completely strategy-led digital marketing agency. So we are solutions focused and our specialists cover a range of tactics from social media and Google Ads right the way through to digital PR and SEO. We also have a digital transformation team, and as HubSpot partners we do full website builds in both HubSpot but also other platforms such as WordPress, and we offer sales and a marketing alignment through HubSpot in particular as a CRM system to businesses not only across the UK but internationally as well. Fab. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hand you over to Daria, who is our social expert here at WAGADA. She's going to introduce herself and then, yeah, we're going to kick off.
Thank you, Dan. It's so lovely to see you all join me today. My name is Daria and I'm a social media marketer at WAGADA Digital, and I help brands like yourself reach their ideal clients through powerful content marketing. And we'll be covering quite a lot today, from deciding what your ad will achieve, who will reach, as well as like how to create the perfect ad, working out your budget and looking at some key metrics. But just before we get to all of that, why paid social media? Well, it will help you achieve specific marketing objectives far more effectively and efficiently. So it really is an essential component of your overall social media marketing strategy and digital marketing strategy. Can you guess what the average ROI for social media ad campaigns is? It's around 250%. So that means that on average, businesses are more than doubling their investments from paid social media, and you could be doing the same. So let's just look at some of the key differences between organic and paid. Organic does require a bit of a more long-term commitment, so you do need to put in consistent effort and time to build a loyal following or to achieve a significant organic reach. And measuring that ROI is a little bit more challenging, as it can be quite indirect. So essentially, achieving your business goals can be a little bit harder, but paid social media will work alongside your organic and help you really fast track it and achieve those goals faster. That's because it offers higher flexibility in your targeting, budgeting, and campaign adjustments. So you can run ads for a set period, so you can target those key sale periods or events, which is not something that you can do with organic, as the algorithm only pushes out your post for a limited amount of time. It's also very scalable and quick to launch. So essentially, with paid social media, you're guaranteed to be reaching the right people at the right time. And just to demonstrate how these two work together, I'm just going to run you quickly through this case study.
Just very quickly, sorry, Daria, we've had a question come through. It might be quite good just to touch on it. I know it's at the start, but it'd be quite good just to clarify for those who are asking. So what is ROI? So it might be worth just talking through return on investment. And then also I know that we're going to touch a little bit later on ROAS, so kind of return on ad spend. But did you want to just quickly give an as to what that's referring to when we talk about an ROI?
Yeah, so ROI stands for return on investment, and basically it's a calculation of how much you're earning from the investment that you're putting into your tactics and strategy. So like Dan said, I will be explaining this more in detail, how you can calculate it and how to improve it if it's not doing well. But yeah. So with this quick case study. Quartzsite came to us with no social media presence, and they needed help launching Gym Rhino, which is an exact replica of a Rhino boulder. And they needed help raising brand awareness and to drum up some excitement surrounding their new launch in a gym in Wales. And we only had 2 weeks to do this. So we developed a social media strategy for them, detailing how paid and organic can help them reach a very niche bouldering community in the short amount of time. And as you can see here on the screen, all the stats, the metrics that we were able to achieve, which would not have been possible if we didn't incorporate paid media, because like I said, it does help you fast track it. So yeah.
It's interesting, Daria, because I've had a private question come through as well about the relationship between followers and kind of engagement and reach. And, you know, now in 2024, I think the way that we engage with all of this is very different, in the sense that it's, you know, equally important, if not more so, that we are reaching an audience, generating engagement and getting a response, and to not focus just solely on how many followers do we generate as a brand, right?
Definitely, because you definitely want to be reaching the right kind of people that are interested in your services and your products, rather than just random people that don't really care that much, because that will lower your engagement rate significantly if you are not reaching the right people. So to start off with your paid social media campaign, you want to define some goals. So here you want to ask yourself, why do you want to run these ads? And this will usually start with a business goal that you want to achieve. But we need to be a little bit more specific, meaning that it needs to be a KPI. And this stands for key performance indicator. To create one, you need to make your goal specific, measurable, and you also need to have a time frame. So let's say, for example, that your business wants to generate more leads. A perfect way to do that would be to run a webinar. So you can run an ad that encourages people to sign up to your webinar, but now we need to make that goal quantifiable. So let's say that we want to get at least 100 signups. Perfect. Now we have a quantifiable goal. We need to add a time frame now. So the webinar is on the 20th of May. Amazing. We have a realistic time frame where we can achieve a quantifiable goal that links right back to our business goal. Once we've set our goal, we need to start thinking about the stage of the customer journey that our target audience is, because this will help you create a more bespoke ad. And the marketing funnel will help you with this. So if your audience is at the top of the funnel, that means that you need to introduce yourself or your product or service and build that brand awareness. At the top of the funnel, your audience is cold because they're not familiar with you. So your goal would be to stay on top of mind and to introduce yourself. You'll be looking at call to actions that encourage engagement or for people to find out more. And the metrics that you'll be looking at are engagement rate, reach, and click-through rate. And don't worry if you don't know what these mean. I will be going into further detail of all the metrics later on in the webinar. So to raise awareness, you want to identify what truly sets your product or service apart and tailor that message to appeal to the broadest segment of your target audience. So use show clearly what your product is and captivate really quickly. Use clear, engaging visuals and straightforward language to introduce your offering. The aim here is to leave no doubt about what you offer and why it matters. You should also emphasize how your product or service addresses a common issue or fulfills a common desire. And at the awareness stage, you probably want to be building lookalike audiences to leverage people that to find more people that already engage with your brand and are interested. Well, LinkedIn has actually discontinued this option, but they recommend predictive audiences based on your contact list, conversion leads, or open forms as an alternative. And this is most likely using AI models, so definitely worth looking into if you're looking to build awareness campaigns.
Just on this, I think it's really interesting because sorry, Dari, if you just pop back to the funnel visual, because I
Sorry.
think when you look at that, no, it's fine. When you look at that top of the funnel, I think that the most important thing is to really identify exactly where you're putting that social media advertising spend. So, as Daria was mentioning, when we've broken that down by, are we going to a cold audience, an engaged audience, are they close to converting? More often than not, I see brands get that wrong, where they might be targeting that top of the funnel kind of awareness piece, but the message is very, very tailored towards somebody who's going to convert. Somebody, and actually it's the wrong messaging in the wrong placement. And the most important thing is to look at where you're doing that. Daria talked a little bit about LinkedIn. It can be very, very effective to use LinkedIn, especially if you're a B2B brand, for that added value engagement middle of the funnel piece, where you've got perhaps email addresses or target lists or people that you want to resonate with as part of a sales campaign or an equivalent campaign, and you make sure that you present an effective offering to them there. And I think this bit is so important in terms of identifying exactly where you're putting your budget and what channels you're using in order to achieve that.
Yeah, that's perfect. So on the next stage, you'll be looking at increasing leads and driving more signups. So at this stage of the funnel, your audience is a little bit warmer because they're a little bit more familiar with you and your service or product. So your goal is to engage them with a direct offering. And the call to actions that you'll be using will encourage people to sign up, fill out a contact form, or to view a specific page. And the metrics that you'll be focusing more on are click-through rate and cost per click. So on the consideration stage, your potential customers are more likely to consider your product if they see a good review from others. And just think, if you think back to your own buying journey, I'm sure you've looked up some reviews before you decide to buy, and they really are highly effective. So also offering something of value for free, like a downloadable guide or consultation session, gives your potential customers a risk-free way to experience your product or service firsthand. And you also get a way to contact them and nurture them further down the funnel later on. You should also educate your audience about the specific benefits or features of your product or service. So then at the bottom of the funnel, your audience is ready to make a purchase, but you might need to give them that final push to convert. So here your audience is hot, and your goal would be to address any doubts or challenges that they may have that's preventing them from doing that final conversion. You'll be using very strong call to actions that encourage people to take action today or now. And the metrics that you'll be focusing on are conversion rates and return on ad spend. So at this stage of the funnel, definitely use limited time offers or exclusive deals to really motivate your potential customers to make that purchase now rather than later. And also something I don't see enough people using are retargeting ads. These are really effective way of just reminding users who have previously engaged with your site or abandoned their shopping cart to complete that purchase. So you can imagine yourself sitting on the sofa and doing a little bit of online shop on your phone, and then your friend calls you, get completely distracted and forget about your shopping cart. Well, these ads will pop up later on when they're scrolling through social media and act as a little reminder. And my top tip here would be to offer a small discount or a free shipping to people that have abandoned their carts, as this will give them that final nudge that they really need. Make it as easy as possible. So that means very few steps to purchase. So make sure that that checkout process is as easy as possible and it's not overcomplicated. And at the conversion stage, you might be looking at some catalog ads or shopping ads. So it's known as a catalog ad on Facebook and Meta, and shopping on TikTok. And these really help to drive more conversions as they run alongside your ads and just make that purchasing journey really easy, because the product pops up on the screen. So you can see on the right-hand side, the product is right there and the person can make that purchase straight on the app. So the way that this works is either you upload your products manually to the social media platform, or you can sync it with your website so it automatically refreshes each time. And Meta has made it super easy for you now. It's leveraging AI, giving you as little steps as possible to set this up. So the way that you get this is that you go to create the ad, you select the conversion goal, and you'll get this option right here. And this is also leveraging AI to help you drive more conversions.
Just very quickly, sorry,
Yeah.
Daria. We've had a couple of questions come through, which it might be quite good just to jump in with at this point. Somebody's asking about setting up retargeting ads. So with retargeting ads, it's all based on audience and how you do that through Pixel. Okay, great. But you do that through Pixel and the tracking of who's engaged with a product or a brand or indeed certain pages on your website, and then you remarket and retarget to those individuals. That's one way of doing it. A challenge that you have in 2024 is the lack of data sharing and kind of third-party data. So if a lot of people have opted out of certain cookies and cookie tracking, it obviously makes it much more challenging. But there are certain things, and again, I can advise you on this separate, but there are certain things that you can do as an organization to improve your chances of tapping into that audience, even down to how you're tracking behavior. The other thing is a question that's come through, Daria, on that with this type of activity and further down the funnel, it's a bit more straightforward for B2C, where you might be saying shop now, buy now, or if people have kind of left things in their basket. But how would you consider kind of retargeting in a B2B setting? So what would be advisable for some of that activity further down the funnel? I mean, is it about lead magnets and downloads versus booking demos and inquiries? But what's your feeling in terms of that further down the funnel activity with paid channels?
So it definitely does depend what your goal is. And as you said, it would be filling out a lead form and booking in that call. So if you are tracking these goals on your website, you can then build your audience and retarget them if they haven't maybe completed that lead form to help them to convert. But it's a little bit trickier, but there are ways of going around it with those goals that you are tracking on your website.
I think
Was
it's a much
anything?
longer process, isn't it? And
Yeah.
potentially for B2B, as you say, it's about capturing, it's probably that, well, we tend to find on campaigns and certain brands where it is really effective in that mid-funnel point where you want to generate that engagement with useful
Yeah.
assets, resources, educational content. Yes, so exactly, gated content. So think about case studies and resources and guides that can then be utilized to capture that information, and then you can use that audience either to remarket to that audience or indeed to marketing qualify those people. So I think from LinkedIn especially, where you're looking at that middle of the funnel approach, I think it can be really effective in B2B.
Definitely. And I always find that with B2B, you're always nurturing those contacts. So it's a bit of a longer process than just converting them and getting them to purchase. So yeah, the middle of the funnel will be the crucial part for you. Um, so some other updates that Meta has released with their catalog ads is that you can now import any videos or customer demonstrations to your catalog ads. So you can see here on the left-hand side, there's a video, and on the right, there's a customer demonstration, and these just make it far more engaging and effective compared to static images. And again, on the right-hand side, you can see all the products listed, just making that journey far easier. Okay, so we've set some goals and we've looked at the marketing funnel. The next stage is to define your target audience, which is key in making sure that you reach the right people. So with social media, you can define your audience through their demographics. So that's their specific age, gender, or education. You can also target specific locations, and you can also target people through their interests and behaviors. So think of this as a filtering system where you really want to reach a specific group, and that group is right here. It won't be massive because you don't need to be reaching millions of people, but only a few thousand that really need your product or service. And this will allow you to create a bespoke ad that really resonates with your audience. So just for reference, this is what it looks like on LinkedIn. So you can see here on the left-hand side, you have all the targeting options, such as locations and other demographics or interests. And then on the right-hand side, there's the forecasted results. So these will change as you adjust your targeting, and they will give you a rough guideline of how your campaign will perform when you push it live. And this is what it looks like in Facebook. So a very similar format where on the left-hand side in the middle here, you have all the targeting options. And then on the right-hand side, you have the estimated results as well as your audience definition, because you really want to have a nicely defined audience that's not too broad and not too specific as well.
It's interesting. Somebody asked a question earlier, especially when you were sharing the case study about volume of how much engagement conversion was, what budget was needed to achieve that. And the truth is that it can vary day by day, month by month, and in terms of so many factors. And I think what a lot of people don't look at, or a lot of organizations don't engage with, is the relationship between some of those estimated daily results that we just saw on the right hand side, like the reach and link clicks, with their spend and budget. And ad frequency can just blow. We've seen some accounts with an ad frequency of 20, 30, but with low engagement or conversion rates, and often that is suggesting an overspend, because it's drawing so much attention to the ads, but without the sweet spot in terms of engagement and conversions. So I think there's an interesting relationship, isn't there, between everything that's happening there in terms of the audience targeting and what you anticipate in terms of reach and engagement relative to spend.
Yeah, definitely. And it will vary from industry to industry depending on the level of competition as well. So it's worth just researching a little bit and just playing around with this targeting and seeing what the estimated daily results, as well as testing your ad, which is something that I'll go off later on in the webinar. So knowing who your audience is and what they want to see is the key to creating ads that they will engage with and take the action that you want them to do. So you really want to do the research here. And we have a free tool that will help you with this. It is a social media strategy workbook. But as I said previously, organic and paid do work together to achieve the same business goals. So everything in there will be super relevant. And as you can see here, you have a table where you can clearly define your audience that will help you with your targeting. And yeah, one of the biggest mistakes that I often see people do is that they don't do enough research when it comes to the audience. And it's a crucial factor because it will significantly impact the results that your ad will achieve. So next, you want to be looking at the best social media channel that you want to run your campaign on. So think about how you use each of these platforms. For example, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and TikTok are a little bit more B2C, whereas Twitter and LinkedIn are more B2B, as people have a more professional analytical mindset on these platforms. So definitely just worth looking at that. And then here's a really interesting table from HubSpot, which shows the highest ROI from each social media platform. And I'm honestly not surprised that Facebook and Instagram are the top two. They have the best detailed targeting and the most diverse ad formats, making them really effective. But talking about targeting, each platform does offer different kind of options for your targeting. So that will influence your choice of where you want your ad campaign to run. So for example, LinkedIn allows better targeting when it comes to professionals and work experience, whereas TikTok has good options when it comes to spending power and household income. So if you want to sell a product, TikTok might be a better option for you. And Pinterest, alongside with X, have a more keyword focus and other interesting options as well. On here as well, you can see that TikTok has quite high ROI, and I wouldn't disregard it because too often people think that it's just for young people. But as you can see here, it's far more spread out and diverse. So definitely worth looking into.
Just very quickly, Dario,
Yep.
couple of questions. So Lawrence was asking about different funnel stages and being able to estimate rules of thumb for maximum ad frequency. And it's very difficult, isn't it? Because we've seen, I guess, different campaigns across different industries and channels where the rules might be different. So I worked on a brand where it was high value, needed a lot of middle of the funnel engagement. Ad frequency was quite high, but that was positive because what that then related to in terms of volume of sale was very, very strong. But on the flip side, literally in the last couple of weeks, we've been working on an e-commerce brand where we need to reduce the cost per sale because of the margin on the product. And we were finding that the ad frequency was very, very high. So there was a lot of overspend going on. You need to reduce the spend to get the sweet spot going. But is there a rule of thumb, Daria, or is it a case of, from your experience, would you say it's case by case, depending on the value of the product and the thought process of the consumer? What have you and the team found on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I usually give it a quick Google because it does depend from industry to industry what a good standard is. You can benchmark yours against that. But more or less, I would say three. Ad frequency of three is quite good. You don't want to go above that because it would lead to ad fatigue, meaning that people keep seeing the same ad and they might get a bit annoyed or frustrated. But yeah, if your product does need that high frequency, like Dan mentioned before, you could add more creatives in there, so that the platform will keep switching them around and keep it a bit more engaging and new and
I
fresh.
think that's what we found, isn't it? You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I didn't think to mention that when we increase that ad frequency when it's appropriate and the metrics are all aligned, we just want to make sure that there's that constant cycle of dynamic imagery, because you can have a high ad frequency, but as long as it's varied and it's not exactly the same content and the same collateral. So I think that's just as important
Mm.
as getting the ad frequency right. Couple of questions there about B2B. Yeah, I mean, look, from an advertising perspective, LinkedIn is obviously going to be very, very powerful from a B2B perspective. Very much more expensive as a platform for
Yep.
kind of engagement and results, isn't it? And I think that's predominantly down to the ability to target key decision makers within certain types of organizations. What's your thoughts, Daria, on the relationship between some of the other channels here if you're in a B2B brand? Because obviously there's still a lot of value in advertising across YouTube and other channels. What's your feeling on the relationship between between these channels?
Yeah, great question. Definitely worth looking. I think the key thing when I decide which platform I want to market on or run a campaign on is I look at the audience that I want to reach and the kind of demographics that I want to specifically target. And then I look at which platform offers me that kind of targeting to make sure that I reach those right people. But like I said, people tend to use more than one platform or quite active on more than one social media platform. So it's good to explore a few options.
There's a few more questions, but I
Yeah,
might tackle those separate if that's okay, just to allow you to carry on, and then we'll move through some of those. But there'll also be an opportunity at the end, so we'll try and cover as many as we can. But thanks for that.
perfect. Okay, when you choose your platform, you should also think about your target audience's mindset when they're on that platform. So you want to do that research and see how popular accounts are using these, how your target audience is also engaging with who they're engaging with on that app. Because most of the time we just want to be entertained or educated. So just make sure that your ad does the same thing. So once you've picked your social media channel, it's time to create your ad. So let's start with the ad copy. Your ad copy should be easy to understand at glance, so avoid any jargon or confusing language. You should also create a story that your audience can see themselves in. So use stories that reflect any experiences or challenges that your target audience has lived through. So include any real life examples or testimonials, and they will be really, really effective. You should also use second person pronouns like you to speak directly to the reader, making your ad feel more like a one-to-one conversation, and speak like them. So if your audience is a little bit more professional, your language might be a bit more formal. And if they're younger, then maybe it'll be a bit more casual. This will help you resonate a little bit more with your target audience. So the ad creative, you want to grab attention really quickly, so use bright colors, dynamic compositions, or unusual perspective. Especially when it comes to video ads, the first few seconds are crucial. So start with something surprising or funny that will stop people from scrolling. Also, ads that make people laugh or feel a strong emotions are more likely to be shared, so keep it entertaining. And my little top tip here would be, where possible, include any interactive elements like polls, quizzes, or swipeable carousels, as they really boost your engagement, inviting users to participate directly with your ad content. And thirdly, social media users have a short attention span, so keep text brief and to the point. Make it easy to read at a glance. So remember to use fonts that are easy to read on small screens and avoid cluttering an ad with too much text. I definitely see that quite a lot on social media where people just put too much information on their creative and it can feel very overwhelming and hard to understand. Just on videos, it's really interesting to see how X is becoming more video focused. So you can see here 10 million daily global vertical video users, which is a massive number. Also, X users are 7 times more likely to engage with an ad in vertical video compared to the same one on the home timeline. So if you are thinking of advertising on X, definitely worth making it a video. And this is what it will look like. So it allows full screen viewability, and the sound on is by default, making it a super immersive experience. So definitely worth doing videos on X. Now I'm going to quickly show you some helpful tools from some of the biggest social media platforms that will help you create an effective ad. And to start off with, TikTok released their own AI, very similar to ChatGPT, where you can ask it to give you some insights, maybe write an ad script, or to brainstorm some ideas for your next TikTok. On this website, which by the way is linked, so when you get the slides, you'll be able to click in and it'll take you to this page. You'll also be able to explore some trending music that you can add to your video, which just makes it far more engaging. They also have this tool which helps you to look up any top ads that people are publishing at the moment. So you can look up what your competitors are doing at the moment, and you can find out their level of budget and any key metrics when you click into that specific ad. So worth looking at, some competitor analysis.
It's so interesting as well, isn't it? Because you touched on the demographics of TikTok, and I always sort of hark back to how it didn't seem like that long ago that I would hear a lot of marketers saying things like, "Oh, our target audience isn't really on Instagram because Instagram is for 16 to 25-year-olds."
Yeah.
And it's like any online channel, I think consider that at your peril, because you tend to find that with digital natives, that younger generation is always going to be the early adopters, first on board to test it out, to try it. And that early generation grows, so in 10 years time, that demographic is still using that channel, and that demographic is your primary target audience. So I guess it's about staying ahead of the curve, and not just, meta ads are so in our blood now, but are we considering getting creative on new channels, right? Because I would suggest there's a lot of opportunity there for that reach and engagement.
Definitely. And I've seen that TikTok is such a huge platform at the moment. Anything that's trending at TikTok will then filter down to the other platforms. So definitely worth looking into that and not disregarding it. Even if you think your target audience might not be on there, it'll be worth just exploring it because you might be surprised. So then there's also what's trending on Pinterest. So you can see any trending keywords. And as I said before, you can target specific keywords in your ads for a Pinterest. Also, if your product or service relates to any key terms that are trending at the moment, it will be worth running a campaign to make sure that you're being seen, because a lot of people will be posting using that term, so your post organically may be lost. And they also have these Pinterest predictions. So this is what they predict will be trending in the future. And if you click onto these ads, it will explain what it is and what it means. So worth looking into that if you're planning a future campaign, if there's any way that you can incorporate these trends to make it more relevant. There's also Facebook ad library. So once again, you can see what your competitors are advertising and some other key details of how it's performing. So once we've created the ad copy, we want to start doing some A/B testing. And a common mistake, once again, that I see a lot of people do is that they don't follow the correct process when it comes to testing. But what A/B testing is when you have two versions of the same ad, but with a small difference, and then you see which one drives more results, and then push that one out more and turn off the one that's underperforming. So here you can see the process. You start off with by choosing your variable, then you define what your goal would be. You create those variants, you run these tests, which would usually be between 1 to 2 weeks, but it does depend on how much data you're able to gather. So you end the test once you see a clear winner. And then once you see a clear winner, you implement your findings, meaning that you turn off the losing ad and then push a little bit more budget onto the winning one, or start testing another element, another variable. And the variables that you can test are captions, headlines, call to actions, or creatives. So for example, here we tested a video versus an image for one of our clients. And Meta also has new AI features which allow you to automatically create variants of your ad copy and headlines. So here you see once you've put into your primary text, it will automatically come up with variants that you can use to test. The same thing for your headlines, making that process a little bit easier and faster. So once you've tested each element individually, you will get your perfect ad and you can start scaling your budget. Because you want to start off small when you're testing and then slowly increase it once you know it is driving the results that you want them to be. And there are recommended starting budgets on each platform, but they do depend on what goal you've set and your level of competition. So you might want to look these up as they will vary quite a lot. But when it comes to the budget split, there is the 7-20 rule. So this is perfect if you're a beginner. And this is when 70% of your budget goes into the awareness stage, 20% goes into your consideration stage, and 10% goes into your conversions. So this links back to the marketing funnel that I walked you through earlier. You kind of want to keep a flow of your target audience going through that funnel, and this is how you would do it with your budget splits. Okay, so perfect. Now we've got our perfect ad and we've got the budget right. We want to look at some key metrics. So let's look at each one and what it means. So reach is the unique number of users who have seen your ad at least once, and high reach means your ad is being exposed to a broad audience. Impressions count the total number of times your ad has been displayed, so they can include multiple views by the same user, and this will help you measure the frequency and visibility of your ad. Cost per result calculates the average cost of achieving a specific goal that you set for your ad, and it will help you to see how financially efficient your ad is. The conversion rate is the percentage of users who take a desired action after interacting with your ad. So that'll be a goal that you've set, and it will show you how effectively your ad is in driving that user to complete that goal. So just for reference, I'm going to show you how the reports look in each platform. So this is what it looks like in Meta, the ads reporting, and you can build a custom one. So you can see on the here on the right-hand side, you can select the different metrics that you want to look at specifically for your report. On LinkedIn, it's also very similar. When you hover over your campaign and then click the charts button, you have these options to dive deeper into each metrics, and you have nice visual graphs as well.
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because LinkedIn, even itself, because of the costs and the way that it works, gives a lot of weight to things like CPM, sort of cost per 1,000 impressions. How much, what cost is it for your ad to be seen by decision makers at businesses XYZ? So I think it's interesting how each channel is also slightly geared towards different types of data and different, what's positive or what's a good win from that channel, right?
Yeah, definitely. All these platforms look quite similar when it comes to reporting. So this is what it looks like with X, TikTok as well. You can select different metrics. And this is what it looks like in Pinterest. So they all have kind of similar metrics that you want to be looking at. But like I said, in the marketing funnel, there are specific ones that you'll be focusing on depending on what your goal is. So one of the other key metrics that you'll be definitely looking at is ROAS, and that's return on ad spend, which measures how much revenue was generated from your campaign. It's shown as a percentage that represents the revenue gained from every pound you spend. So, for example, so you take the revenue that you gained from your campaign and you divide that by the amount spent on your campaign, so the budget that you've put in there, and that will equal your ROAS. And it could be that maybe you're running an awareness campaign or one that's not exactly selling something. So it would be good to attribute a monetary value. How much is that worth to your business to help you calculate that ROI and ROAS more effectively? So anything that's above 100% means that you're generating revenue. So here you're getting over 100%. And anything below 100% means that you're losing your money. And if that happens, then you want to start off by lowering the costs of your ads, so decreasing your budget and just going back to the drawing board and testing and optimizing these ads, making sure that they are driving the results that you want them to. And also, it's worth re-engaging people back, so doing those retargeting ads, because it's much cheaper to run retargeting ads than awareness ads to people that aren't familiar with you, and you have to take them through all of that process again. It's also important that you're aware of the wider picture. So people don't always convert directly from ads. That journey might be a little bit longer. Example, they see your ad and then a few days later they remember it and search up on Google and then they convert. So you definitely need to be looking at assisted conversions in Google Analytics 4. Or also, I know that some social media platforms have assisted attribution models. For example, Facebook has an attribution of 7 days, which is still quite a short time frame. So I'll still be looking at in GA4, but that will factor in the longer journey of the customer. Okay, perfect. Let's look at some key takeaways that we've learned today. So we need to understand the different stages of customer interaction to tailor your strategy effectively. And you should also leverage demographic information, interests and behaviors for targeted advertising. Your platform choice should align with where your target audience spends the time. Use storytelling and clear, persuasive messages that speak directly to your audience. Utilize A/B testing across different elements, such as your creative, your copy, headlines, call to actions to get to your perfect ad. When it comes to your budget, start off small when you're testing and then scale it once you find that winning ad. And focus on key metrics to measure and improve campaign performance. Questions?
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Daria. That was really, really insightful. I've had loads of fab questions coming through as we go, and also some really nice comments that the people have found it hugely beneficial. So thank you to those of you who have reached out either on the main chat or also privately. Obviously, look, it's an hour, we could talk about this and dig deeper into every single section and talk about it for 2 or 3 days, but hopefully there are nuggets there for different people at different stages of your journey. I've seen a lot of questions that tell me that there's a lot of people on this webinar in very different stages of their advertising journey as a brand as well. So that's super insightful. So what we'll do now, we're going to open up to a couple of questions. I've had a couple that I just want to address that have come through that I made a note of. Yeah, great question about video versus imagery. So Daria, do you want to talk a little bit about, I guess, the power of video over image ads, and if you see trends in terms of better results, in terms of, return engagement, what's that look like for video versus either static or kind of moving image ads?
Yeah, definitely. I do see that videos tend to be far more engaging because they're just really fun to watch and look at. But it does depend on your industry and your brand as well. So definitely always worth testing this because you might be surprised that actually the static image performs better. And when I ran those tests with our client CVP, we actually found that the static image did perform better than the video. So that was quite surprising. So definitely always worth doing those tests each time.
I guess there's a big difference as well, isn't there, between the sort of the B2B and the B2C? Because
Yeah.
with B2C campaigns, we're recommending a lot of kind of UGC, so user generated content,
Yeah.
or yeah, videos and ads that appear to be very authentic and created by users, versus perhaps with B2B, if you're promoting an asset or a downloadable guide and some gated content, having a strong, powerful image of that with a nice call to action and some very clear messaging, that might be more powerful with your audience. So it does depend whether the B2B, B2C, but I think that's interesting that it's not always a case of choose video over imagery. It's about the balance.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a question about AI and using AI for ad content. It'd be good to know your thoughts on that. But before we talk about AI for specifically ads, it might be interesting for people to know there was a major algorithm update literally in the last week or so, which was tackling AI. Google's now looking at AI content and AI generated content. On websites. And I have to say, honestly, having worked in search and digital marketing for years, I have never seen such a big level of fluctuation in search engine results. It's genuinely unbelievable. Some brands have grown, some brands have tanked, I would say, plummeted, and these are businesses. There's so many individuals and experts that are sort of sharing data of saying, look what's happened to this brand, and over a week the change in fluctuation, it's unbelievable. And I think the truth is that algorithm update is currently in a period of flux, so it's settling. So some websites have been hit much harder than perhaps they should be or need to be, and they're making gains. So at the moment that algorithm update is very unsettled, but what it tells us is what Google is doing at the moment and how some of these big players are considering AI content. So I think AI is massively beneficial as a soundboard, as a resource, as a two-way relationship. But trust it just completely to look after things kind of at your peril because of the knock-on effects of that. Daria, what's your thoughts in terms of how to best get the most of AI when we're building any of these campaigns or working in these areas?
Yeah, great question. It definitely, I see more platforms leveraging AI, like we saw that tool from TikTok or from Meta, those different features. However, they are trying to find AI content that is misleading and taking that down. So just make sure that you still keep it quite authentic and true to your tone of voice, as well as make sure that the creative is not misleading and tells people exactly what your product is or your service is. So yeah, that would be my only point on that.
A couple of comments in the chat about surprise about the demographic spread of TikTok, and I think I'm not sure that data. I know there was a report literally in January about the higher sort of age bracket and the gender split. What's your feeling on, I guess, current social channels and yeah, which demographics? It's an open-ended question, but what are your thoughts in terms of the age brackets on TikTok and what sort of content people are looking for at the moment?
It is varying, like you said before, it tends to be the younger generation that takes on that new platform, explores it, and has fun with it. But as it grows on and it gets older, other people jump on it too. And it's used
Yeah,
in different ways. So we've actually
yeah,
seen even like law firms using TikTok and doing really, really well on it, giving advice that's very beneficial to the general public. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good couple of bit of sort of debate and conversation going on in the chat about the algorithm and what I was just talking about being pro or anti AI content. Lawrence has popped a reply in there. It's absolutely right. It's about, look, ultimately Google's responsibility and kind of the internet's responsibility, I suppose, is to provide users with quality content. It's to provide individuals with information. And so what it is I think it's really looking out for that sort of spam, artificial, kind of what would be considered as bot or fake created content. So it's not about whether it is kind of pro or anti AI full stop. If you take a piece of AI content, if you take 500 words of AI generated content and move it through enough content marketers and specialists or whatever, by the end of that process, it's a very different looking piece of content. So it's about considering how you're using AI. And I guess that you're using it responsibly as a business and that you're not using it to generate quite poor quality or sort of content that it can be clearly identified as being artificially generated. So again, it's very, very early days in terms of these major these major updates, but it is something to consider from a search and an SEO perspective. Jason, any advice on using social media to generate sales for B2B consultancy services? Great question. Daria, do you have any thoughts on that? So if you're B2B sort of consultancy, what's your feeling on social media, but using it to ultimately get that end goal, that bottom line, and move the needle? What's your thoughts on that?
It's quite an open question. There's a lot that you can be doing, but I think one of the biggest tips I would give is probably leveraging testimonials and reviews to show how you have like transformed other people through your consultation, how you help them achieve specific results. Those I found to be highly effective.
Yeah,
Do you have anything to
it's
add?
no, just on that, I think you're absolutely right. I saw and have done campaigns where that middle of the funnel activity surrounding case studies and everything can actually be more powerful than we give it credit for. Like if you've got a powerful case study or a testimonial or something strong, you can lead with at that middle of the funnel and then start to move people into downloading assets and guides. And then what you've got is lead gen. And then you might not literally be letting social media generate direct sales, but then maybe that's when it becomes sales qualified or marketing qualified really for the sales team to then target. So I guess yeah, it's about identifying exactly where in the funnel you're going to place that spend and how that's going to feed into the big picture. But yeah, I think that proof of those trust signals are massively important whatever you're doing. JT Black, as a software engineer, I actually use an ad-free paid search engine for quicker, more neutral results. Interesting. And the other thing, we didn't really go into this in detail, but obviously when we were talking about the power of remarketing, the power of retargeting, and again, that level of cookie blocker and people that aren't, opting in yeah, for shared data and remarketing is much, much higher now than it's ever been before. So our reliance on cookies, 10 years ago, it was a very standard B2C e-commerce funnel was to just, generate awareness, hook people in, retarget, remarket, remarket, remarket. And now we have to look at that very, very differently. And things are moving towards machine learning. Daria sort of touched on GA4. If you've got good traffic volumes, GA4 and Google and through Google Ads, you can start to yeah, get these sort of it's AI effectively, isn't it? It's building assumptions on audiences and then providing you with audiences to market to and to retarget to. And again, that whole piece, it's called the federated learning of cohorts. Don't get too techie on it all, but is very early days on some of that stuff again, even in terms of where we could be in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years. But yeah, the whole sort of attitude towards remarketing is shifting as well. Any final questions? We've gone through a lot in the chat. Does anybody want to add any more or even unmute and pop a question over? That would be absolutely fine. No? Fab. Brilliant. Well, listen, really great to see so many of you on here. I will make sure that you get a follow-up. You will have access to the deck. You'll have access to a recording. I'll pop a link to a couple of diaries on there. So if you wanted to set up any kind of a call or a follow-up or find out a little bit more about perhaps how we help brands in this area, then please don't hesitate to do that. Loads of really lovely commentary coming through on the chat. So we always really appreciate it. Our charity partner Youth Talk, I'll pop the details for that as well. These are free webinars. We always welcome a donation or a slight contribution towards them. So please don't hesitate to do that. Or indeed, leave us a little review on Google or Trustpilot. It does go a long, long way for us SMEs. So thank you again. Have a great rest of the day. Best of luck with your social advertising journey. Bang on time at 11 o'clock. Take it easy and enjoy your weekend when it arrives. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.